Hi guys, and welcome to the Energy Geographies research group. In this video, we'll give you a quick introduction to Energy Geographies, and we'll look at some of the work that energy geographers are doing around the world. For more Energy Geographies content, check out our website at www.energygeographies.org. We have a great range of free resources for students, teachers and researchers who are interested in global energy issues. You can also subscribe to our free mailing list, our YouTube channel, and follow us on Twitter. Make sure that you don't miss out on our events, videos, or resources. We have loads of great stuff to come.
Hello, I'm Dr. Catherine Butler from the University of Exeter. I'm going to give a couple of examples of how energy issues are inherently geographical concerns. First, the processes of energy's extraction, its production, its transportation and consumption all unfold across space, and they shape the spaces that they unfold over. One example of the ways that geographers have examined this is by looking at how processes of energy extraction have profoundly shaped different places around the world, such as places like South Wales in the UK, where the extraction of coal to this day is still really important to the identities and the experiences of people and place. Second, energy systems tie together many different locations, bodies, things, ideas and values through space and across a wide range of geographical scales. For example, we might think about how processes of energy consumption connect our homes and our most personal practices to other spaces and scales through these complex systems of energy provisioning. And these processes are in turn also shaped and informed by the spaces that they're unfolding over. So, for instance, the scaling of energy systems as large-scale centralised systems of provisioning in the UK context has been profoundly shaped by political decision-making, economic interests, and the particular cultural histories of place. So geography is key to understanding energy issues, and energy systems are fundamental to geographical interests, such as the production of space.
Energy geographies are at the core of geography as a discipline. Perhaps that role hasn't been rightly recognised for a long time, but it is increasingly being done so. I'd say for two main reasons. We can't think of any geographical concept, any fundamental concept, whether it's place, space, whether it's territory, but even more topical questions around climate change or Anthropocene. We can't think of any of those concepts without considering energy circulations and energy metabolisms. But more importantly, questions of energy justice are central to achieving social justice. And if geography imagines itself to be a progressive discipline or a progressive field, it needs to take into account energy inequalities.
So what are energy geographies? I think it's useful to think about the answer to this question at three levels. The idea that energy geographies are phenomena in the world, that energy geographies describes a subdiscipline or a field of the discipline of geography, and thirdly, that energy geographies is a project, an unfinished endeavour of inquiry. So let's just take those one at a time. So as a phenomena in the world, we could think about energy geographies as being the remaking of spatial relationships around energy that is part of geographically uneven development. It particularly centres on the geographies of energy capture, energy conversion, energy transmission and distribution and consumption. So there are a range of empirical phenomena that form the subject of energy geographies. Typically, it hinges on infrastructure, but it also hinges on social relations, the materialities of infrastructure, of production and energy consumption. So energy geographies then are about the repatterning the remaking of those socio-spatial relations as a consequence of energy systems in a state of flux. Part of that flux is about decarbonisation. Part of that flux is not about decarbonisation, but is about ongoing relationships around energy security, about affordability, about the expansion of energy infrastructure to serve a growing middle class in the global south, for example. So the range of ways in which energy systems are undergoing transformation. And the point of energy geographies is to understand the new patterns of uneven development and the consequences of those patterns of uneven development that result. The second way of responding to what is energy geographies is to think of it as a distinctive subfield or subdiscipline of geography writ large. So what we mean there, I think, is the sense that energy geographies here is effectively a toolbox, a set of methodologies, a set of approaches, a set of concepts that can be brought to bear from the legacy of geographical inquiry, that can be brought to bear on questions concerning energy. And what I think is really exciting and interesting there is that toolbox, one, is very large. There's a wide range of methods and concepts that can be brought to bear, but also that they imply quite different perspectives. So, for example, we can think about work that's been done, not about energy specifically, but about the phenomena of consumption and how we might think about what that work on consumption has to teach us, has to say, what it can do when applied to work on energy. Similarly, we might think about the kind of attachments that people form in resource landscapes with place and with embedded historical relationships around place, and what that can tell us about contests or struggles over resource development, whether it be in the context of renewables or unconventional fossil fuels. And all the work that's been done in infrastructure studies, for example, what that might bring to questions of energy infrastructure around transmission and distribution. So the point, simply put, is that geographical toolbox is large, is diverse, very varied, and not always drawing in the same direction. So if you like, you've got a rich set of tools at one's disposal. And the third idea is that energy geographies is an unfinished project. And the significance of that, I think, is the open question, which is what are the consequences for geography as a field, for the concepts we use, for the sorts of questions we ask, of this engagement with energy at this particular moment of transformation? How might that encounter with the empirical stuff of energy transform some of the concepts and methods and tools and the questions that geographers ask of the world? That, I think, is what connects up that first point about energy geographies as being phenomena in the world, the process of geographically uneven development, with that process of conceptualization. What ideas and concepts might emerge out of our encounter with that world in a moment of transformation.
My work looks at the justice issues associated with whole energy systems, from the stage of mining at the very beginning right through to stages of waste and to domestic and commercial consumption. I do so largely in a conceptual sense, but also increasingly through empirical work and through policy-oriented decision-making work. I've also recently started looking at the just transition, the move from fossil fuels for renewables, and how we make that fair both for workers and for the wider society surrounding those sites themselves.
My research looks at past and presence of urban energy. I connect historical studies of infrastructure with contemporary debates on socio-technical and urban transitions. So, whilst drawing on concepts from urban geography and STS to unpack past infrastructural trajectories, I also use historical analysis to broaden our perspectives of contemporary change to urban energy systems.
Energy geography is the study of how energy systems shape nature-society relationships and how these relationships vary across place, space, and different forms of energy. I've developed these ideas through my study of bioenergy and more recently hydraulic fracturing and petrochemicals. And I'm keenly interested through my research in developing policy recommendations for more equitably balancing the economic and environmental trade-offs of energy development.
I'm in Sanders, Arizona, near the Navajo Nation, and behind me is a sand mine using sand for hydrofracking. That's part of the natural gas oil extraction sector. And my research, which has focused on coal and has focused on solar and other kinds of transitional energy technologies, really looks at industrialization of energy in and around Indian country. And we're surrounded by reservation here, and trying to get a sense of how tribal political actors integrate and use industries, how industries here employ people, how the tribal government works with state governments, the federal government. So it's really the politics around energy, both in its conventional and its old, outdated, dirty forms, and its new transitional forms.
My research examines the geographies of energetic flows between bodies and environments. I've looked at how workers in the tropics use embodied awareness to manage dynamic thermal loads, which arise from intersecting solar and labor rhythms across the microgeographies of their work sites. This enables us to open up adaptation as an everyday practice in more than human ways.
My work looks at energy through the lens of extractive industries. I'm interested in things that are dug up out of the ground. So I've worked on the old carbon economy of oil and gas, and I'm also interested in minerals that are connected to renewables, things like battery materials, like lithium, for example. I sit somewhere between economic geography and resource geography, so I'm interested in the global production networks through which extraction of these materials takes place, and the role of competition, the role of social movements, and the role of finance in transforming these sectors and the implications of those changes for energy transition.
My research explores the causes and consequences of spatial inequality. I'm especially interested in energy-related inequalities, thinking about issues such as energy poverty, energy vulnerability, and energy justice. As a quantitative human geographer, I use spatial data and mapping approaches to understand the spatial distribution of these phenomena.
My research is focused on decarbonising transport. I do this in a number of ways, but largely I use socio-technical transitions literature to look at the dynamics of car dependence and to consider alternative pathways forward.
My research is concerned with the development of sustainable energy technology and in their shaping of the human and more than human world. Theoretically, I engage with post-development literature. Methodologically, I prefer ethnography, and empirically, it is located in the Global South.
So my work broadly looks at the changing relationship between society and the underground. So where it's not only a site of extraction, but how it's also becoming an important place for storage of various materials, substances, gases, as we transition into a low carbon future. So I'm really interested in the governance questions that surround that. So how do different uses of the underground interact and potentially collide? How does that vary over timescales from weeks, months, years to thousands of years? And also thinking about how the materiality of the space itself shapes our relationship with it and presents various futures for us.
My research looks at the power that disadvantaged local governments have to pursue energy transitions and the way in which the spatial nature of energy infrastructure intersects with the fiscal and financial infrastructures of a city. And I'm currently looking at this question in Latin America through district energy in Chile, but also thinking about post-industrial cities in the greater Boston area where I'm based.
Hi, I'm Dr. Jonathan Silver from the University of Sheffield. And my work on energy geography focuses on sustainable energy transition in African cities. I'm particularly interested in thinking across the diverse and heterogeneous configurations that power everyday life in African cities, particularly in informal settlements and rapidly urbanizing contexts. And my research has included household surveys, interviews, and the film Powering Namawongo.
A
studied the relationship between energy transitions and rural transformations with an emphasis on social opposition and the role of sense of place. Methodologically, I used participatory mapping and counter mapping as means to elicit representations of space and local spatial knowledge. I hope the work helps to better understand human environment dimensions of energy transitions, while also opening opportunities to improve land use planning.
I work on the governance of energy transitions and different aspects of the supply chain, all the way from extractive zones over to the spaces where energy is consumed. And I think it's really important that we're aware of the different contexts and geographies in which these transitions happen to understand how they impact social and environmental equity and justice. Therefore, I work explicitly at multiple scales.
I work on energy and climate justice in the global south, and I do this using conceptual lenses of anti-colonial, post-colonial theory, environmental geography, and the critical development studies.
My research looks at energy poverty. I study how space and place influences people's ability to access energy services in the home and the impact that a lack of sufficient energy services has on people's well-being and quality of life.
My research is focused on reconceptualizing the notion of energy justice and decolonizing how we use this notion. I am preoccupied with the idea of understanding energy justice as an universalizing principle, when instead it should emerge from a sense of place and a sense of being. To do so, I use the concept of energy landscapes as a way to understand the grounded, historical, and geographically specific experience that constitutes the idea of justice.
My research looks at some societal aspects of electricity production from geothermal resources in Turkey. In Turkey, geothermal energy is an emerging field and area of renewable energy investments. And in my research, I look at the dynamic relationship between the private companies, the state, and the citizens in the making of new energy geographies of the agricultural landscape.
So that was a short introduction to the field of energy geographies. We hope that you've enjoyed this video and that you now want to learn more about the work that we as energy geographers do. Remember, the Energy Geographies Research Group is here for you. We're a volunteer organisation that is part of the UK's Royal Geographical Society, and we work to promote research on energy geographies and also teaching around energy issues. We produce a wide range of resources for students, researchers and teachers, and we host a series of free events such as webinars, conferences and online socials that you'll be more than welcome to come and join us at. You can find out more by following us on Twitter. Our handle is @EnergyGeography, or by checking out our website energygeographies.org. We've got loads of resources on there, and we also update it regularly with all of our events and videos and podcasts and so on. So make sure that you check us out there. We look forward to seeing you at future events. We hope that you take care. Bye everyone.